Mr. Jayson Stark, and he's brought to us by?
Jayson Stark is brought to you by Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365.
How are you today, Jason?
Tyrone, I'm great, my friend. How are you?
Doing pretty well other than last night, but otherwise things are going just glorious. And because we're going to mix it up. We're going to end up being positive, then negative, then positive again, and then negative. So let's start like we always do with the stat of the week.
Okay, let's do that. I know last night wasn't the greatest night of Edmundo Sosa's career here, but Tyrone, I just wanted to make a point about that guy, and here's the point. I think he's the greatest Phillies bench player of modern times. I don't know who else is even in the argument. Tomas Perez, Craig Dobbs, Placido Polanco, maybe his first time as a Philly. But here I think is a good way to look at Edmundo. Wins above replacement, I know it's not a perfect metric, but the good thing about it is it tries to measure everything that a player does on the field. So it's useful for stuff like this. And Edmundo's wins above replacement per 162 games played in his career is over 3, meaning even as a bench player, he's worth more than 3 wins every season. And just to give you an idea, okay, Alec Boehm is the same player. He's at 3.4. Edmundo's 3.2. Bryson Stott, same player. He's at 3.0. Edmundo's 3.2. Brandon Marsh, basically the same. He's at 2.8. Edmundo's 3.2. Then what might surprise people is Kyle Schwarber in his career is only a 2-win player, 2.3. Nick Castellanos is only a 1.5 win player, 1.5. I mean, a lot of that has to do with defense or lack thereof. But I just messing around looked at Tomas Perez. He was a replacement player. He was at 0. Greg Dobbs was at less than 0. So my point is, what do you want when you bring a guy off the bench? You want there to be no drop-off from the guys he's replacing. Am I right? And that's Edmundo Sosa. He's an elite defender anywhere in the infield. Can't quite say that in the outfield yet. But he gets 2 hits every game. So he's the greatest Phillies bench player of modern times. And you guys can feel free to prove me wrong.
Well, speaking of the bench, Rojas made a big mistake last night, and I want to get your experience on how often these mistakes cost you.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like it's all the time, right? If you look at that play, Ricky, there were so many mistakes on that play and around that play. It was kind of the perfect storm of disaster. I was trying to think them all through, right? Because he had a guy playing in the outfield for the first time in his career and doing it on a night when the number 1 starter was on the mound. So there's the managerial decision to play him in the first place that's probably worth talking about. You had the center fielder not taking charge of that play or even making an effort to catch the ball when it was clear that the left fielder was not going to. That was inexcusable. I heard you say that after the game multiple times. You couldn't be more right. I don't care what the left fielder was calling or not calling. A guy who's supposed to be an impact center fielder has to know that's his ball. He has to make sure it gets caught. You can say, well, Rojas is younger than Edmundo. That's true. So should the coaching staff have emphasized to him, listen, this guy playing next to you has never played the outfield, so help him. Be the quarterback. Make his life as easy as you can. I don't know whether that happened. It's a question worth asking. And then, to your point, there's Zach Wheeler, who goes walk, 3-run bomb. And that was the most shocking part of all, because if that snafu happens with the number 5 starter on the mound or some middle reliever, everybody in the dugout is saying, uh-oh. When it happens with Zach Wheeler on the mound, at the bottom of the order's up, remember, isn't everybody saying, he'll get out of this? And then that didn't happen. So it was all bad, right? It cost them a game. It happened in a series where they have a chance to bury the Braves. It happened in a game where they scored 5 off Chris Sale. So it was extra bad. I don't know if I totally answered your question, but what a mess.
It was a mess.
No, you absolutely did, and that was one of the things we've been emphasizing today was it was a blown opportunity in a game where you got a bunch of runs off of Sale. We're speaking with the Hall of Famer, Jayson Stark, currently writing for The Athletic. He also has the Starkville podcast, actually in 2 different Hall of Fames. One positive, we'll switch back to that. Kyle Schwarber yesterday, my goodness, Ricky and I have been talking about how we just love the player. We love him. We know it's a contract year, whatever it is, but we've enjoyed basically every minute that he's been here, especially when he's healthy. Could you just talk about the impact and the kind of player Kyle Schwarber continues to be?
Yeah, he's the perfect Philadelphia baseball player. He just is. How about that home run he hit, man?
Yeah. Hardest hit ball so far this season.
16.7 miles an hour?
Yep, hardest hit ball so far this season.
Yeah, as I tweeted during the game, that's the hardest hit ball Chris Sale's ever given up to a left-handed hitter, and the second was hit by Kyle Schwarber. It's also the hardest hit ball hit in any regular season game by any Philly since the invention of StatCast, which was 10 years ago. And now you look at the start that he's off to. I remind you, it's not even June yet, okay? Against left-handed pitching, including guys like Chris Sale, he's hitting .532 and slugging .1,300. The games they've had him in the cleanup hole, he's got an OPS almost 2,000. When the game is within 1 or 2 runs, his OPS is 1,400. His bat speed.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching our YouTube. If you want to help us out, go ahead and like and subscribe for us. If you liked what you saw, go right over here to our playlist and pick out whatever you want to watch.
Keep waiting for them to announce that they've extended him. I don't think that's gotten too far because, he looks around, he sees the deals that guys are signing, and he thinks, why would I sign early unless they really make it worth my while? But it's just so hard to comprehend of this team without Kyle Schwarber on it moving forward, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
because,
it is.
He's just beloved. And
right.
People love the old almost throwback, Babe Ruth throwback guy. That's what it feels like to
He
me.
just has the look.
He does. He has that look.
Yeah.
And before you go, Ricky, it also feels like in some ways he's still getting better because last year was better than the year before. And so far, obviously, it's very early. This year is better than last year. It somehow feels like in some ways he's still an ascending player even though he's into his 30s.
It's hard to argue that any player at age 32 is getting better.
Yeah.
But he understands now what kind of hitter he needs to be. And he does everything in his power to make sure he's that guy every night. He hadn't even swung and missed a whole lot this year. That'll change. You always worry about health with him. But he is he was on my MVP ballot last year, and Bryce wasn't. And so maybe that tells you something about what I think of him.
Yeah, it makes sense. All right, now we'll switch over to pitching. Phillies bullpen, kind of been up and down so far, but the fans are definitely getting a little concerned. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's worth worrying about. The Dodgers were here last weekend, and one of them said to me matter-of-factly, our bullpen is way better than their bullpen. And, the Phillies have, when everything's right, probably the most velocity coming out of that pen of any team in the league. And based on all the power arms, it should be a strength. But outside of Jose Alvarado and Matt Strahm, who do you trust? Orion Kirkring, I think, still feels like a work in progress, even though every underlying piece of data says he's great and young and getting better. Joe Ross has thrown the ball better and better as the spring's gone along and now the season's gone along. So I think you've got something there. But Jordan Romano is a big question. Just unusual when a guy's velocity is good at the start of spring training and then gradually starts getting worse. The way he approaches opposing hitters tells you he's got that fear of the bat right now, or fear of his own stuff, and I think that's a concern. And then Tanner Banks and Jose Ruiz are just guys who should be pitching the fifth and sixth inning. So to lose Jeff Hoffman, I think we all knew that was a game changer, but it feels like just such a mammoth hole in that pen to me now as you watch these games unfold. You guys share that?
Yeah. Now Ricky and I, Ricky, obviously you'll get the last word on this, being a former relief pitcher. We've talked about Kirkering, and we like him, and you mentioned those stats. So maybe the hope is that he grows into it. But you go ahead, Ricky.
I think Kirkering's one of those guys that if he doesn't fall in love with a certain pitch, and I'm talking about his slider too much,
yep,
I think he could be dominant. I think he overthrows his slider. I think he's got a really good fastball, and I think the whole learning experience for him is going to be locating his fastball.
Yeah, I agree. And this has been an ongoing topic ever since he got there. I mean, the reason he has thrown so many of those sliders is it's been his best pitch at its best. It's an unhittable pitch, and he's being told by everyone who analyzes the data in a big spot that's your best pitch. But it can't be what it ought to be unless he realizes that he's got a fastball that he can throw at 98 miles an hour at times, and now he's been playing around with both riding it and sinking it, and he's got to figure out the formula for how to use that fastball so the slider is the kind of pitch it should be. He's still feeling for that, Ricky. Isn't that safe to say?
Yeah, but he should be at a point now where he should be turning a corner.
This should be the year.
He's had enough appearances where he should be 99% comfortable when he gets out on the mound every time.
And one more thing, they have built the bullpen expecting that to happen. All right, why is Jeff Hoffman not here? That's one of the big reasons.
Yep.
They expected Orion Kirkring to grow into that.
Well, great stuff as usual, Jason. There's a reason you're in multiple Hall of Fames. We really appreciate you each and every week with all the great stuff, and we'll talk to you next Wednesday.
Enjoyed it as always, guys. Thanks.
All right, that was the Hall of Famer, Jayson Stark.